everybody. We're back.
Hey. How you going?
This
Good
is
to
the
see ya.
Destiny of Your Soul. Yeah, right? It is. It's good to see you too. Destiny
Right
of Your
under
Soul.
Mount Fuji.
Yes, I know. I love the picture and I'm like, I have to use it because I love it. And
Yes.
even though where I am, it's 80 or something degrees today.
Wow.
Yeah. My daughter was like, you have to come outside and sit in the sun with me, and I did earlier.
Lovely. No snowfall. I'm assuming.
No, I'm in Northern California, so yeah, no snow. But
Virtual snow.
well, let me introduce us,
Jump right
even though
in.
our names are on the screen, so that those who don't know us will know who we are. So this is, or if they're just listening, so we've got Kyle Spreedes, author of Decide Your Destiny and custodian of the Decide Your Destiny movement, and then I'm Angela Talent. I'm also the founder of Damaged Parents and the author of Poems from a Lost Soul, and friend to Kyle.
And I'm friend to Angela.
There you go. See, it all comes back. We've been off for a couple weeks because we've had a lot of stuff going on, and I'm excited to be back.
Yes. Yep. So am I. And I got a little sneak preview, guys. Was very lucky. Was graced with a powerful poem that I just think I'd love Angela to just jump right into and set the tone. Because I just think it's there's so much to discuss in this one poem, and sometimes it's that thing of less is more. I don't know, more is more, but also sometimes less is more.
Well, and the name of the poem is More, so less is more and more is more. It all works out for me, but
Yeah.
and it was interesting because as we were talking before we got started about today's topic, how to free yourself, not yourself, but yourself.
Your shelves of yourself.
Yeah, don't
When you're not in
limit
a good mood.
yourself to the shelf inside you, okay?
Yeah.
That's a new thing. That's really a new thing.
I like that.
Yeah, but even before we realized the topic, I said, I was reading as I was waiting for you, and this poem just came to me, and I was like, I think maybe it's for you, and so I read it to him. I'm like, I think you need to hear this, and then he's like, oh, Kyle's like, oh yeah, that's actually really perfect for our topic today. I'm like, okay.
Ace.
And I was like, okay, let's go for it. So we'll just get it started with that, with the poem. So I actually have two then, because I have this one and another one. But let's get
more
started.
Is more.
Exactly. So here we go. More. You are not confined to your body, to your mind. You never have been. You are more. Much, much more. Close your eyes, slowly sip the air, feel beyond what you think is you. Can you feel it? Aren't you magnificent?
Wow. You know what I like to do?
Yes, I will do it again.
More is more.
More. There's more. Yeah. More. You are not confined to your body, to your mind. You never have been. You are more. Much, much more. Close your eyes, slowly sip the air, feel beyond what you think is you. Can you feel it? Aren't you magnificent?
Powerful, folks. Powerful. Angela has another one up her sleeve and just whips it out at the last minute to hit us in the soul.
I think it's true. I was right before the show, I was I was reading, and it was about the Global Consciousness Project,
Okay.
which basically is, it shows that we're connected. You know, big things happen like 9/11. They've had these measure this ability to measure. They're not
Yes.
everything, not everything, but
Yeah.
they're finding that we move together on emotion, right?
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
it was, and as many of you know, I'm in meditation school, and so that's something I really ponder as I close my eyes and trying to feel beyond the body,
Mm.
and and it's quite an interesting sensation, and I'm just really intrigued by stuff like that. So yeah.
What's interesting about it?
That's a fantastic question. That I believe it's possible, that there's evidence that shows, if it were years ago, and I was around some person who had quote unquote psychic abilities or things like that, I'd probably still be like, I'm not sure, right?
Yeah.
But they're increasingly gathering evidence that there is a global consciousness, and that we are more connected than we
Mm.
many times believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm sure you felt stuff like with your grandpa or your grandma, as far as like if something was up and you needed to connect with them.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think sometimes, and you also hear, when I was growing up, you hear about the like there was a 2005 tsunami in Sri Lanka and different sort of things that have got, and you might have a family member, like I had a family member over there at that time, um, on the beach where the tsunami came in, and they survived. But you hear about these things, and like I think everyone feels it, like these big sort of in the last few years, we've definitely gone through a few of those where something happens, either in a political sense or in a some sort of global sense, and people are going to experience it in different ways. I think I remember the quotes, my father would say was, uh, everybody's experiencing the same thing, but each of us choose how we experience it. Um, and I found that kind of profound, but like really true, because we might all see, you know, uh, the wave or the tsunami coming, but if and for his case, he was in a brick building. He'll see it in a different way than the person in a hut who's going, God, like, this is it. So it's, I definitely do think we have that, and you get this with Joe Dispenza and that sort of, that your heart field, your frequency expands out further than just yourself. And yeah, I'm on board. I guess what I'm saying.
Right? Like, it's true. It's true. And I think too, like when we get into those mental shackles, I'm going to quote you, just so you know. I'm going to quote you.
Thanks for warning me. Thanks for
Is it
warning me.
is it still weird?
And no,
Are
it's
you
okay.
okay? Okay.
You've done it enough
Uh,
times.
oh, okay. Cool. Cool. It says, in every bit of content you consume, ask, why am I listening to this person? Why am I agreeing with this? Why am I disagreeing with
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Does it confirm what I already know, or does it threaten what I thought I knew? Does it satisfy me with confirmation of my current position in life, or does it irk something troublesome within me? What value does it actually provide me with in my life? And what value does it allow me to provide to others in their lives? I I love all those questions, because like when I get into my mental shackles, I have to figure out, I have to, I call these questions tools. And because when I can use my tools, I think I do life better.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think we all need. Look, if you just do things just based off how you feel, like then you're not going to get anything really done, or you're not going to like have any sort of progress. Because, and this is something I've been confronting a lot recently, is like, oh, like I feel really motivated right now. I feel really energetic. Let me do it. And then maybe, like, compared to when you're younger, or a different phase of your life, or different conditions. And I think generally it's to do with different conditions in your life and situations. Um, like, it's kind of like, anything you touch is gold. You go through that season, anything you touch is gold. And then there's a period of time where you're like, what the hell? Anything I'm touching is going to freaking ice or something. Like, I don't know what's going on here, or it's turning to stone. And then, and in those times, it's a lot harder to show up, and kind of confront what you've got to do, and do those little steps that take you closer to your goals, or um, that align you spiritually with what you've set out to do, or what you believe your mission is on this earth. So I think, because, and we're in such a I think it's a real, it's a big time of emotions and feelings. And I think on this planet there's, and I'm not saying that it's terrible, but there's a good side and a bad side. Because, like, if you're making decisions only on emotions and how I feel, and then logic just gets thrown out the window. um, and I think that I remember hearing this other quote, and it was, the most dangerous thing is the human mind's ability to convince itself of anything. So whether or not, like, this wall is white, I can convince myself that it's green. I can, and so I can convince myself that my emotions are more important than logic and reason, and um, like, just in your natural order and things like that. So um, I think it's it's really hard to um, interpret the intricacies of life when we're coming out of emotions and feelings. And I'd say, for me, what I've noticed, um, and I grew up with my grandparents, so I had a different sort of upbringing. Obviously, there's traditional values, or like principles from their era, or uh, things that they taught me that um, are very rare in my demographic and my age group. Uh, my grandfather was like, just get on with it. Um, no complaining, no explaining. A lot of these things, where maybe in today's world it'd be like, oh, he was shoving things down, but he didn't shove anything down. It was just the attitude he had towards life, and his perception, and how he approached it. But in today's day, you get, some comment like that will get analyzed right through its, you know, right through who knows where. So I think that it's really important. And that quote reminds me of just, keeping your mind clear, keeping your mind on target, and not getting caught up in the washing machine of emotions and feelings and headlines and all these sorts of things. Um, there's a lot of, like, chaos and verbal diarrhea on the planet, that can get you swirled in all sorts of ways. And so you might start your day out, and like, you'll for you, your meditation is meditation. Like, for me, maybe my meditation is working out, and then doing some journaling, and then maybe speaking to a family friend overseas, or whatever it might be. For some people, it might be a coffee or a tea, or sitting in that moment, and just letting their mind kind of develop, like, for the day. And then they're in this kind of, oh, yep, great. And then they bounce. I go, oh, I just went for a run. Now I feel, like, really energetic. I'm going to go do this. Now I feel really great. I'm going to go do this. Now I feel, and so, like, things will kind of come and almost knock you off kilter in your day. And so, like, how do you keep going? How do you keep showing up? How do you keep pushing forward if you're not feeling it? And I think that's where
Yeah.
mental shackles can pull you back, because you might go, well, I'm only going to do this if it feels right. Like, come on, guys. Like, most of the time, it's not going to, what writing a book is like. You're like, Did it feel right the whole way through? No, probably
No.
90-80% of the time it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's hard. I think too that if I look back, if I honestly look back, because I think a lot of times we think hindsight's 2020 or that things were easy. But when I really look back, and there were hard moments, when I thought things were going well, right?
Mm,
If like, oh, I was in my 20s and I was doing X, Y, and Z, but when I really, really think about it, I was frustrated. I would get frustrated. I would get upset. I would think I was failing, and then I'd inevitably get up and keep going. And I think sometimes, like, I think that becomes the mental shackles, right? We assign this story in our head to what we think happened. Oh, it
mm,
was easy then. The reality of
mm.
it is, for me, when I honestly look back, it was freaking hard, and I just kept going.
Yeah.
you know like,
Yep.
how did I and that's what I'm trying to figure out. How did I do that? How did I
Yeah.
keep going when I felt like it was stacked against me? How did I step
Mm.
through that fear? How, that,
And that's the
yeah.
thing. You're you are that person. Like, you don't change, but then you also, like, you're a new person as well. You're a new you with new perspectives and new information and new priorities and new uh, fragility because of your current circumstances, and like all these things kind of come into play. And um, I was chatting with a colleague of mine the other day, and he was saying how his kid goes to school. All he does at school is bring home flus and whatnot, and then he gets sick, and the kid is up and bouncing the next day, and he's still recovering. And he goes, it's that kind of youthful, um, relentless, like kind of resistance to, oh, this is hard, oh, this is challenging, oh, I just bounce back up, baby
But
falls flat on its butt.
some adults do that. So how is it
Yep,
that
yep.
some adults do that and some don't? Like,
You know what I think it is? I think they don't allow and you're talking about like mass consciousness. They don't allow the mass um, indoctrination or domestication of themselves. You know, like, you've got to keep some of that animal in you. You got to keep some of that wildness in you. And I was pretty wild as a kid, and like at school, I got in a lot of trouble, um, and but you know there was, how is it? It's not that there was never any understanding, or there's never any sort of environment for that. Like, hey, there was sports, and I think that's why I love sports, because it's like, hey, go run around like a maniac for the next hour, just go nuts, and it's like, yes, like I loved it, I loved doing that, and I think, like, your parents, like, tell you, no, don't do that, you know, teachers tell you that, work tells you that, and then, like, by the time you hit 30, you've just been compressed and contracted out of life. And I think the big message of my book, Decide Your Destiny, was, and especially the heart and soul chapter, was explaining how, because I was compressed and contracted, and because I made those agreements, maybe spiritually, maybe choosing my parents, or whatever it might, people might believe, but because I was in that environment and I didn't get out of that environment fast enough. I was I was this kid, like this, like I was loud. I was, I would go up to people that were 2 meters tall and they looked like Kane the wrestler, and I'd grab their leg and shake them, and I would talk to waitresses at, I was like 2.5, and I'd say, "Hey, cheeky babe, can I get a cola?" And like my family were like just shocked. They're like, "What? How is this kid communicating like that?" I don't know if it goes back to when my granny, when I was growing up, she had a pub, and my mum was an international model, and she was traveling around the world, and so I was basically like raised in the pub, in the back of the pub, and I would be talking to adults. I'd be up at the pool table. I'd be sitting on my stool. I'd just be around adults communicating. So I think, you know, the big thing I think is that it gets compressed, and I felt it get compressed and contracted, and everything that I was like suppressed, and it was wrong. It was wrong to be what I was, and so that weighs heavy on your chest. And then from my personal belief is that I created the dis-ease, whether it showed up as A B C D E F G labeled disease, or whatever it kind of embodied itself as. There was a dis-ease, and where I compressed and put a lot of the emotions down, that's where it showed up. And so for me, I think that's where, like, you find that again. And through that disease, I had to find that. I had to become relentless again. I had to bounce back. I had to face unforgiving odds and find a way and be creative with it. Be creative with my life. Oh crap, this has happened. Oh crap. And you as much as anyone knows what that's like. How do I create life with circumstances that I did not foresee or plan for or desire? How do I still create a life that and sometimes it opens you up to go, wow, I was just going to plod along until I got my retirement package, or until this, until that. I was just going to plod along and probably be depressed my whole life. But now this kind of shock has awoken me to, wait, why don't I design my life a bit more? It's kind of forced. Like that's how I see adults that can bounce back and keep showing up. They keep a little bit of that animal in them, and they keep a little bit of that undomesticated, and it's not that they haven't been domesticated, but maybe they really focus attention on and go, wow, I was really shoved down in my life to fit into a box for society, for people to feel comfortable around me. But that's not who I am.
Yeah. So how did you break out of that? I mean, I've read the book, but like we're talking about mental shackles, so we want to make sure we're talking. There were many different things you did. So anyway, how did you get through that yourself?
Yeah. So, for me, you've got to find your Buddhist temple in your life. You've got to find that place you can go to. So when I was getting compressed and shoved down and contracted and feeling the most, I guess, mental abuse like in my life, in my teenage years, I had a gym, and I was lucky enough that at the school I was at, I had a gym that I could go to, and I had a vision. I had a vision of I want to play, international rugby, and going to the gym every day was feeding and fueling that vision. But really, what it was fueling. Hey, I can have a better future than what is right now. I can have a future that's expansive and expressive, and obviously taps, and I didn't know that stuff at that time, but taps into my childhood, all those childhood characteristics that we all have. I want to have fun. I want to see what I can do. Kids constantly playing, trying to put things together. Man, what can I do in this life? Like, how can I play with this life and create something from the invisible, create something that's not even there, to the physical? Like, how can I manifest something? So, I had my little like shrine where I could go to, and I could feed those childhood, or rather than saying childhood, but like naturally ingrained desires of the being. And I think that's the number one key, is just to find a safe place. Like, maybe you're in a family home where you're realizing, crap, like, I need to get out of this home at some point, because everyone is just so, like, they're just not on the same page as me. Then what you do is you get up early in the morning, you go for a run, you get out, you go to the coffee shop, you like go to the local, you just get out of the environment, because I think your environment will affect you so much more than you realize. And sometimes we're placed in environments that we can't choose,
Yeah,
and I had to get out of the environment I was in.
I was gonna say, like the hole in your heart, right? Like you had this, you're on this journey to be an international rugby player. You're good at it, and then that thing hits, that infection hits, and you're down for the count. How did you find your way? How did you find, I'm sure during that time it's like, oh, I'm never gonna, there were a lot of negative thoughts. How did you get through that?
So number one thing I think is, and as I said, you might be in a family that you need to get out, but also you need to find support. You need to find, you know, your team that's going to help you through. So I was lucky enough to have a core team of, hey, you're in hell right now. There's no playing around with it. Like, this is as worse as your life's ever been. However, there is a path. There's a path up this mountain, through this tree line,
How
around
did
this
you
lake.
know? I'm going to interrupt you. How did you know there was a path?
Again, it was, and this is where, that chapter of heroes and mentors, it was other people kind of like being there around me, because I just knew what my reality knew. I just knew what I had known in my life so far. Um, I didn't have a whole wealth of experience at 18. I didn't know, like, about personal growth and, the stuff that we talk about. So I was basically going, you know what? If I look around, this is disastrous. However, like my stepfather Ward, or my grandparents, and it was really it was such a small core type group of people that were bought into the vision. But they said, "Hey, this is where you're going. We're going to support you." And Ward was probably the best person. He said, "Hey, this is what we're going after. This is the goal." That's what I had. I had a goal. Really, I just had a goal. And having a goal in life, like having a target, having a vision, having a mission, like, it's that whole thing of, you could have everything. You could have people pedicuring you every hour on the hour, or whatever it is. Like, you could have, endless massages and all this sort of stuff. But if you don't have a mission, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have a vision, like, it's almost like that is the thing where you don't have anything. Like, you've got to have that, you know, more like as number one. Like,
So,
because if you don't have that, you just don't have anything to give to other people.
right. So you knew you had a path because of Ward and the other people around you. And then
Yep.
it became important to gain a vision or to find that
Yes.
vision. How did you,
Yep.
and it sounds like you borrowed it. I don't know if that's a good word. You borrowed it from Ward at first. And when did you know it was your own?
Yeah, I mean, a great thing would be, like, it was a chosen indoctrination. It was a chosen, like, I'm gonna buy into this. I'm gonna, like, sell me on this, like, convince me. Just like, I'm just gonna put all my chips into this, and I'm just gonna trust you. You know, finding the person you're gonna trust and just go all in. And hey, I don't need to know the encyclopedia of information that you have before I make a decision. And a lot of people do this. You know, like, I need to know everything and anything, and by the time they make a decision, it passes them by. I just need to know that you've shown up for me in my life, go off past record, and I trust you, and whatever you say, we're going to do, which is a hard thing for people to do. But I think, probably, to answer your question, let me know if I'm not really answering it right, but it's probably, if you take away your options
Mhm.
and you go, hey, the melting pot's down there, and the sunshine's up there. Like, if you take away people's options, then it becomes simpler for the mind to convince the body and the spirit to go and do something and break those mental shackles.
Mm. So by trusting them, and it sounds like trusting them was not like the knowledge, it was the other stuff. But yeah, I think
Or
that,
trusting their knowledge, like
yeah,
trusting, yeah,
yeah, that's what I was getting. It's like trusting that that person knows that,
mm,
so yeah, because see, my thing is, and I think we're all always going through change on some level, but there are some points in life where change is like, ugh, is that really what I want? Right? Like,
yeah,
crap, I'm really happy about this, but it's going to impact that. And then
mm,
for me, I think, probably one of the reasons I'm I'm reading that book Connected. I think it's by
Yes.
Nelson.
What's the title? Tell us the title again. Connected.
Connected. Hold on. It's a little bit of a long title. Let me see if I can find it real quick on the phone here. I'm just gonna look at the Connected: The Emergence of Global Consciousness. But
Yes.
I think for me, in what I'm kind of dealing with in my life and the changes that I'm going through, it's almost like how do I trust God? How do I know God is there, or the universe, or whatever someone wants to call it, and know that no matter what, the universe has this, God has this, whatever that means. Instead of, I mean, you see what I'm.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm trying to be like, okay, when have I trusted before, and what happened, right? Like,
That's powerful. That is a powerful comment, because I think, and where it lines up is what I was, when you asked me those questions, what I was saying was, and what I realized is, it's like, my brain was always, oh, I need to do it all myself. I need to achieve it all myself. I need to go for it all myself. I need to figure it out all myself. And you don't go anywhere great or overcome anything great by yourself. And that was a moment of going, hey, I'm handing my destiny over to you in this moment of time, and I'm just gonna just walk by you, walk the road with Jesus, just walk down the path, just trust enough to walk down that path. And regardless of what might come out, in the path, and what challenges you may face, and trusting that they will help guide you. And I think that when you talk about trusting God, I think it's the same, or trusting the universe. I think it's the same thing. It's almost like it's people say like, oh, I'm going to surrender. I guess it's that's a one way of saying it, but it's almost like I'm gonna take my faith that I have all invested in myself, and I'm gonna now take it all and invest in you right now. And there's those times where you're, I don't know if the saying's right, come to Jesus moment, or probably, I think that's not the saying, but it's like those times where you're just like, you're going, oh my God, every direction I'm going I just keep getting kicked back, and then you get your prayer hands out, and so it's in those moments, like, you go, all right, let me hand it over, because in that prayer you're saying, let me hand it over.
yeah, is it in
So I
some
think
ways
that's
like
hard, isn't it?
taking, yeah, like taking your head out of the game, kind of. I'm gonna say that in a loving way, like because my head can tell me all kinds of great, fantastic stories.
Yes, yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
really trusting that deeper connection to God or the universe, because one of the ways in the last few weeks, because I got to give a talk for a church
Yes, I saw the
online.
talk. It's
Yeah, it
great,
was
guys.
fan.
On
Oh,
YouTube, check it
thank
out.
you.
Where can they check it out? On your channel?
YouTube. I think it's on my Facebook page. It's pretty much almost all my socials except for Insta and TikTok.
Check it
But
out,
those
guys.
are short
Cheeky plug,
form.
check it
The
out.
short form will be on there soon enough. But one of the things I remember from that talk is specifically talking about the how we don't do it alone. I never did it alone. Everything I've ever had in my life is because of other people. So if
Yes.
I never did it alone, and somehow I made it to this point, then like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I can trust. Like, but
Yeah.
that's a tough. I think it can be difficult, and I know we've got like 4 minutes left.
Yeah. It's yeah.
That's a deep
It's
topic.
it is, and I think it's something that the generation that I'm in, young generation, maybe they got it handled. Maybe they're going to be connected through um, virtual, in ways that uh, like that just will blow us away, and maybe that kind of come back to the community, and in a post lockdown world, it's going to break free, and people are going to come back to community and come back to, hey, instead of having our faith in all these people right above us that don't necessarily live the same life experience day to day as us, let's come together as a community, and work through some of our problems, as people that actually experience the problems day to day. And so and get advice from people that have gotten themselves out of the problem and how they got themselves out of the problem. So yeah, I think it's something that I definitely have to keep reminding myself of. And especially if you've got a small business, like I'm starting to build a bit of a team. I've got some contractors underneath me. I've got a business partner that I'm trialing, and we're kind of trialing each other, seeing how it's flowing and working, and it's going good. But it's it's a great reminder of or it's a great and we can finish on I'll finish on this, but and then you can finish your statement. But it's a great reminder of like just putting a telescope or a torch on how my brain works, and really like backwards engineering and going, oh my gosh, like I just when you just do, or you just run at 100 miles an hour, or you just go, um, or you just live at your flow, or you just go through ebbs and flow, whatever pace you go at, like you don't necessarily know what you're doing and how you could be doing something different because you haven't changed to do something different. And like thinking, oh, wait a minute, instead of me just going and doing it all myself, let me look at the team. Let me have a conversation with the partner. Let me have you know, and then that thing, oh, is this the right conversation to have? Maybe I don't need to discuss that. Maybe I can figure this out on my own. And just, it's very interesting to be able to like be relying on people, and it took time. It was like, okay, I can trust you a little bit. I can trust you with this little piece of the pie. All right, I can trust you with a little bit more, and then you just kind of slowly trusting, and it made me realize like, oh, if I hadn't trusted these people, or if I haven't invested in this, I wouldn't be like moving where I'm moving in the direction. It would have taken me much longer. You know, I would not have ever done that thing. It required trusting someone else to be able to do that thing. So I think the takeaway message, like to free yourself from your mental shackles, would really be like to find like your tribe, and I guess that gets thrown around a lot, but find your support structure, find people that are going to help get you to where you need to go. And trust me, there's going to be people that are going to help they might not be around you right now. They might not be in your environment. So you might be looking and going, ain't nobody's helping me. Ain't nobody's, going to do nothing for me. But, there's people out there, and you like, if you've got something great within you, if you've got a gift to give in this world, if you've got a book, if you've got a poem, if you've got anything, it's your right, and the world needs you to get it out there. And so if you need other people to help you get it out there, then just just eat that, just deal with that,
Yeah.
confront
And
it.
I think just really checking those thought processes, right? And being
Yeah.
aware, do I have a bias in this matter? And if I do, am I making the decision based on the bias? A lot of times we'll have biases, we won't check them, right? Like,
Mm.
so if I know I have a bias, it's actually helpful. I think there are a couple, I know there's a website you can actually go and check your biases at. I'll have to see if I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
find it. Is it? I think it's the IAT or something like that.
I think you mentioned
I,
something. Yep.
yeah, it's
We'll
it's
drop it in
it's
the
something
comments.
like, yeah. If you know what it is, drop it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see if I can add it to the show notes at some point. But or I'll put it in next week if I need to. But check your biases, learn about your biases, see if you even have them, and then remember that our brains are prediction machines, right? There's so much in our world that we just totally ignore because our brain is, I'm sure you've driven home from work and got home and you're like, wait, how did I do that? Right? Because
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
in prediction mode
Yes.
and it
Yep.
was easy. So I think take those questions, why am I listening to this person? Why am I agreeing with this? And I think even apply that to yourself, right? Why am I listening to this voice in my head right now that's telling me that this is impossible? How is that helpful? What am I doing? Things like that, just to kind of
Mm.
check in and see where you are. Um,
Yes.
and so,
Yeah.
yeah. So, are we good? Do you want to close on that then? Because I know we're at time, or we're a little over time.
No, no, I love that. Love that. Check your biases. Realize that if you're going to do anything, like look at people who can help you there. And this is something my grandmother would teach me from a young age. She was a counselor for 60 years, but she'd tell me like, Kyle, like there's people in the family, there's people that will help you. And I think I got burnt from like asking for help, and it's hard because you ask for help and no one shows up and those sorts of things, and you go, well, your ego, your pride, yourself goes, well, I'm not going to ask anybody for help ever again, rah, rah, and you're like, wow, okay, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot for the next 60 years, So I think it's important to be open enough to be able to ask for help, delegate, tasks, find someone who's an expert in something, and see how they can help you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, well
Awesome.
then we shall close out.
Thank
I'm
you. Just
Angela.
before Mount Fuji erupts.
Yeah,
Sorry.
facts.
I'm just joking. No, it's not that. It's not that
Facts.
sort of mountain.
You had to throw it in there. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Okay, so I'm Angela with a damaged parents with a damaged parents. I'm Angela with damaged parents, and this is Kyle Spreedy's.
I threw you off, didn't I?
And yeah, with Decide Your Destiny, the custodian of the Decide Your Destiny movement. We'll be back next week. So glad you made it.
Thank you. This is the destiny of your soul, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Cheers, guys.